My name is Taylor Randall. I'm Dean of the David Eccles School of Business at the University of Utah, and I'm excited to welcome you to this exciting discussion on innovations in housing affordability. You know, the University of Utah and the David Eccles School of Business is thrilled to be the anchor organization for Ivory Innovations, and it's been fun to see the development of all of the initiatives around housing affordability in the last few years. The basics of Ivory Innovations is this is an organization that tries to combine the innovative resources of students, academics, industry, philanthropy, and really look into future generations to see how we can solve the housing affordability problem. This unique collaboration comes up with all sorts of different types of ideas, and it's surprising and always surprising where those ideas come from. Many times they actually come from our students who are at the ground level trying to solve their own housing issues. In fact, one little anecdote, several years ago in our Hackathon House competition, we came across a homeless student who then found housing here at the University of Utah. He then participated in some innovation and entrepreneurial activities and came up with a tent that was designed to help homeless individuals. So that's the kind of thing that we just see coming all the time from these innovations. You know, before COVID-19, America had a housing crisis and a crisis in housing affordability. And we are seeing it in spades now as you see people struggling to cover rents as unemployment becomes more and more uncertain. As you see the effects of COVID on households, multi-generational households who haven't been able to afford living accommodations that are probably right-sized for the groups of families that they have living with them, and we see people put at risk. So today, even more, we see housing affordability at the forefront of some of our big societal problems, and we've got to find solutions to these things. However, as you might have seen in the economic data, housing also provides massive glimmers of hope for all of us. And in fact, we wonder, and we'll pose the question today, how does housing lead us out of this recession? And our guess is that innovation in housing will be a big, big part of this. Well, as we get started, I want to make some acknowledgments. First off, I want to acknowledge the Clark and Christine Ivory Foundation for their support of Ivory Innovations. It's been their vision, leadership, and resources that have created many of the programs that you'll hear talked about today. Second, I want to flip up a slide and thank our Ivory Innovation board members. You can see them pictured here today. And then finally, I want to thank the foundation partners for Ivory Innovations. That is the Clark and Christine Ivory Foundation, BMC, the Larry and Gail Miller Foundation, Autodesk, Intermountain Foundation, and ABC Supply. And finally, we want to thank all of the doers here at the University of Utah, the students and entrepreneurs that are trying to find solutions here. You'll hear today that there are plenty of doers out there. So let me go through the agenda for today. First, we're going to hear about one of the brightest young minds in housing affordability. We're going to hear from Ryan Smith. He's a former professor at the University of Utah and now the director of the School of Design and Construction at Washington State. He's a member of our advisory board on housing affordability, and last week hosted a hackathon for students across many, many universities. Next, we're going to hear about the state of housing from Clark Ivory, the CEO of Ivory Homes and trustee of the Clark and Christine Ivory Foundation. He, along with Kent Colton, who's the chair of our Ivory Prize in Innovation, will address kind of what they're seeing right now in innovation and what the prize has meant the last few years. And then finally, we're going to hear from the fantastic Abby Ivory, who kind of keeps this all together. She is the director of Ivory Innovations, a remarkable and unique talent who kind of keeps the wheels on the bus rolling and all of us in the right seats. So with that, remember that we're at a unique time in the history of housing in our country. It's a unique time, certainly in the history of pandemic management. All of these things are coming together to make the work that we're doing all the more important. With that, I'll turn it over to Ryan. Ryan?
Thank you, Dean Randall. I do miss living in Salt Lake. I love being able to have such a great connection with the University of Utah through the Hackathon House initiative. As the dean mentioned, Hackathon House is a yearly 24-hour hackathon-style ideas competition. It's created to tackle the affordable housing crisis in the United States. And students are encouraged to engage with leading voices during that 24-hour period and experts to explore housing affordability. Through innovation, participants can help solidify economic opportunities for vulnerable populations in their own communities and beyond. And this past week, we hosted a virtual hackathon in collaboration with many universities, University of Utah, UC Berkeley, Harvard University, Howard University, the University of Texas, Austin, and my own university, Washington State University. We had 171 students from 20 universities and colleges making up 51 teams who developed solutions in finance, policy and regulatory reform, and construction and design. We gave out a total of $10,000 in prize money. The students did a great job. There were some incredible ideas that emerged from the competition this year. In particular, students were looking at how COVID has changed the real estate market and the economy and what they could do to turn lemons into lemonade. We saw some examples such as reusing infrastructure, empty parking lots, empty commercial buildings, empty university buildings, for the idea of housing. Many of the historical, regulatory, and financing structures that were not established with social investment in mind were tackled by the students. And they were clearly trying to respond to this condition by proposing reform to make a more equitable and accessible policy and finance structure for vulnerable populations. Further, there were a number of ideas that looked to expand the revenue potential for homeowners through, say, like ADU policy reform or financing products that allowed for ADUs, accessory dwelling units. Finally, many students are keenly aware of the labor shortage in construction and the impact of this on housing costs. So there were a number of proposals that sought to solve this problem through apprenticeship or technical college training to fuel skilled job creation and workforce. I've loved judging and supporting the Hackathon House initiative for the past few years. I know that for many of these students, this may be their very first exposure to the magnitude of the housing problem and their first opportunity to try to come up with solutions to solve it. Hackathon House was recently nominated for the 2021 AIA and ACSA Housing Design Education Award, and we know it will continue to garner momentum for a whole new approach to engaging students to solve the pressing issue like housing affordability. I'm also hopeful that we'll see the students and their ideas make broad impact, and eventually that these same students will apply for the Ivory Prize that we're discussing today. I want to share my personal appreciation for my involvement and Washington State University, my institution's involvement and affiliation with Ivory Innovations. And I am very thankful to Ivory Innovations for their commitment to housing affordability. With that, I'm eager to turn the time over to Clark Ivory.
Thank you so much, Ryan. It is amazing what you are doing at Washington State, and it's amazing what's going on with Hackathon House. I absolutely think this is incredibly cool because the students are the people that are going to be most impacted by the challenges of housing affordability going forward, and their fresh ideas are exactly what we need. We have an incredible advisory group, and they are the wisest, smartest people in the housing space. But students have that entrepreneurial edge. They have that sense that they can explore all kinds of new ideas, and we need those new ideas. So I love what you've done with Hackathon House. I want to thank Dean Taylor Randall. I always call him the most entrepreneurial dean in America. This guy is afraid of nothing. He loves to try new things. He just recently started a master's in business creation, the only one in the country that the entire curriculum is designed around building a business. But he was so engaged with us in just saying, let's do something that will truly impact housing affordability. And he welcomed Ivory Innovations, and we are grateful to him and the University of Utah. The Ivory Prize is all about solutions, one step at a time. The Ivory Prize for Housing Affordability has shown that solutions are beginning to emerge We've been impressed by several hundred entrepreneurs and companies that have come forward and applied for the prize and been engaged with us at Ivory Innovations. This has great potential as we find that, as several have alluded, these challenging times need innovation, but they're also what often will sort of bring about innovation. When we have challenges, when we're up against the wall, that's when we do our best thinking. And so we're very happy that Ivory Innovations has the opportunity to really engage and come up solutions now that they're even more critically needed than ever before. Let's just reflect a little bit about the Ivory Prize over the last couple of years. 300 amazing ideas have surfaced. It's about coming up with these new ideas and seeing if we can help them be scalable and also shining a light on them. At the outset of the Ivory Prize 2 years ago, to be honest with you, we were hopeful, but we weren't completely certain what kind of innovation was out there in this housing space. Truthfully, it's been one of those industries that has lacked enough innovation. But what we found was the acute problem of housing affordability was causing a lot of really smart people to start to think about solutions. And what we're doing now is having an opportunity to shine the light on these people and these entrepreneurs. We can help them also scale their ideas or scale their solutions out to the country, and also bring them maybe investment dollars and other experts that can help them figure out how to bring it right to the surface and get something done. The state of housing innovation today, I think, is healthy and strong. We're just starting to get into a lot of the most important things that we need to do to change housing. We need to focus on some of the most important trends. You know, I'm going to bring in Kent Colton. We have some amazing winners of the Ivory Prize in the last year, and our top 10 finalists. We'd like to sort of key in on some of their ideas. So Kent, let's take it from here, and I think you and I are going to have a chance to show some of the ideas that have surfaced in this last period of the Ivory Prize that we were so impressed with.
Absolutely, Clark. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for all you're doing. Your energy and passion really inspires us all. Thank you for your call several years ago, which got me started in this effort. I think the reason the advisory board enjoys this so much, and they've been involved in housing for literally decades, is that we're all learning new things, and that's exciting. As you hoped, there really is significant innovation and creativity which is underway around the country. And this activity is at the grassroots level, where there are people aren't worried about the problems as much, they're worried about the solutions. As you said, the state of housing innovation in America is strong.
Fantastic, Kent. Let's dig in right now into what we see as 6 trends that we're seeing in this space of housing affordability, innovations that can really have an impact.
Based on the innovation that has been discovered, we've kind of analyzed what's happened over the last 2 years. And it's possible then to highlight 6 directions or paths that are underway, which really do help improve housing affordability and give us some guidance for the future. Recent studies have shown that upwards of 25% of the cost of a single-family house and 1/3 of a multifamily unit is tied to regulation. So as you can imagine, the first major innovative area needed is to remove barriers at the state and local level, but especially in local communities and states, to allow more homes and apartments to be built and to reduce the time and cost of building homes.
Thanks a lot, Kent. You know, I think that you're right. Unfortunately, we sort of get in our own way. And that's why regulatory reform, I think, has so much potential. If we can just get everyone that's involved in regulating the housing space to be open to new approaches and new ideas, we can see big breakthroughs. That's for certain. Our winners have made inroads in terms of moving into regulatory reform and seeing advances there by streamlining and figuring out how the process can work much better. 3 of the top 10 Ivory Prize finalists from 2020 illustrate how significant private sector and public sector efforts are underway to achieve better regulatory policies and to have an impact on housing affordability. Let's just take a look at Symbium, if we could. From the private sector, these folks are cool. This is a group of really sharp Stanford folks that have decided they're going to do some amazing stuff to just streamline the way cities process information. This platform that really has figured out how to help cities carefully define the regulations and process, planning code, etc. It has allowed them to also figure out how they were going to eventually have an impact on streamlining the whole process of getting a building permit, doing plan review. They are going to provide tools to cities that will allow them to have instant response. A builder will be able to submit a blueprint online, electronic files, and have them quickly reviewed and come back with red lines that they need to address. Then they can spend their time going in and sitting down with the planner or the reviewer in the city and quickly get to the issues that are at hand. Not having to wait for months while someone goes and puts these plans through a very long, elongated process. I love what Symbium is doing, and I love right now how they're having an impact on ADUs, because cities need to figure out how to implement these accessory dwelling units. It's a little bit complicated, how they position them on lots, whether or not they fit within their code. And while lots of cities are passing new rules that allow for ADUs, they don't often know how to implement or execute on this. And Symbium is the company that is making a difference right now with many, many cities in California, but they're going to be going national. So we're impressed with them. We're just at the beginning of what I anticipate is a technological revolution in housing in terms of planning and the approval processes that will have a monumental impact on speed and turnaround and also on affordability. The key to Symbium's business is comp law, which translates laws and regulations into computer code. These applications make the zoning regulations that shape our cities and towns easier to navigate. I think this is going to be cool stuff to watch. Absolutely fresh and a new approach to zoning. I want to now talk about the city of Minneapolis and the state of Oregon. We were impressed and recognized them as part of the Ivory Prize this year. They come from the public sector, but they're taking a very new and fresh approach. They have absolutely just done away with single-family zoning. The city of Minneapolis and the state of Oregon have modeled regulatory changes that I think have broad applicability and potential across the country by adopting significant new zoning changes. They've, besides eliminating single family, which is a major step, they are making it clear how the impact of having duplexes or triplexes available on what were traditionally single family homes will allow a whole new group of people to move into neighborhoods where there are quality schools and substantial infrastructure. So we've been impressed by them. We of course continue to look at impact and how we can overcome some of the bureaucracy that is involved in our own industry. So this is going to be cool. Let's now move on, take a look at some other stuff, Ken.
Absolutely. And I think this area of regulatory reform is so important. Cities and towns are constantly talking about the need for more housing affordability. This is a way they can do it through technology and through their own actions without major dollar costs. Now let's look at the second innovative path, which is underway to increase housing construction through innovation and technology to both faster, increase productivity, and lower costs. Over the last 2 years, the Ivory Prize has identified and recognized a number of companies that have made major innovation related to construction and design for both multifamily and single-family housing. Unfortunately, time is not there to go through all the innovations, but perhaps you can give us an example or two from what we've learned.
You bet. You know, we've had tons of applicants and nominees that have come in this modular space. It's been nice to have Ryan help us really understand those that are technologically sound and doing it the right way. But two of them have really stood out in the last 2 years. Of course, Factory OS from the Bay Area last year, but this year Integra. What an incredible company. I love what these guys are doing. They are so efficient. They're pushing the envelope and they are doing terrific things. These are Irish guys that are really making a difference. They currently have 2 factories, one located in Ripon, California, with a capacity to produce 500 units per year. The other facility is in Modesto, California, with a capacity to produce 3,500 units per year. And they expect to finalize plans for a new factory in Southern Cal around the end of 2020. You know, these guys are doing some great things, but what's amazing is to see them sort of take that process that's typically taking a couple of weeks and allowing, because they're doing so much of this stuff up front in their factory, allowing the actual process to be reduced to 1 single day. Kent?
That's great, thank you. Let's move on to the third area. The third innovative area is to utilize creative finance approaches to allow more people to qualify for a mortgage and to buy a home, or to generate ways to make rental housing more affordable. Creative finance alternatives are essential both for building and rehabbing housing for the future, and to provide more affordable opportunities for renters. When we were doing the judging, I think we all felt that Rhino, a company founded in New York City, had a very innovative way to help renters save on the upfront costs of renting a home. Could you please tell us about Rhino, Clark?
You bet. You know, Rhino really is focusing in on the renter. And we know that lots of renters are just on the edge of being able to afford that apartment. It's taking, in many cases, as much as 50% of their total income in a lot of these high cost areas. So it's hard for them to come up with the rent and also come up with, you know, the deposit, the security deposit. And what Rhino has done has put a sort of an insurance in place that allows for someone who can't afford to have both the first month's rent and the security deposit at the same time. By purchasing this new insurance that goes to the landlord or the property manager is at ease that if something happens, they're going to have the backing to go get that issue resolved or repaired. And the renter is able to just pay a matter of a few bucks a month and know that they're going to be able to move in without having maybe twice what they would have had to have without it. So I think it's really making a difference. And I like the fact that these guys figured it out in New York City, but they're taking it all across the country, and they're currently registered in every single one of our 50 states. No question, these guys are going to make a difference. And it's just starting to pick up steam. These are the kind of things that, these kind of tools that I think can have a real impact on affordability. Right here, we see it in the rental space, Kent.
Exactly. And we really do need innovation in the rental space to make an impact on housing affordability. And that really brings us to the fourth path that we want to talk about, which is very specifically, Rhino did it, but others who are out there assisting renters to improve their financial position and credit scores to help them achieve homeownership through innovation and technology. Renters face a number of financial and other barriers, especially minorities and those with lower income. And COVID-19 has dramatically increased those burdens for renters. However, innovation is underway. Clark, could you share some of the things that are happening to assist renters besides Rhino, which we've already talked about?
Well, Diggs is a very amazing company based out of Chicago. And these guys sort of recognized that there was a big opportunity to help establish credit for those that were renters. A lot of property managers and landlords really don't report to the credit reporting agencies. And what that means is if someone doesn't have strong established credit, they can't use their on-time payments of their rent to help boost their, credit. And Diggs wanted to change that. So they've set up an amazing situation where they're helping these folks by providing them with absolutely an ability to sort of get that done. They're streamlining that process, but they're also giving them education, the renter education about savings and what they need to do to prepare to buy a home and what is the process that they go through. And they've given them an app that helps them understand all these different things. And then it gives them prompts during the month about things they ought to be considering and reminders of what they need to do to stay on track. So I think it's very encouraging that we think about helping prepare renters to be homeowners. And we don't just do that at the time that they're ready to buy, but we're doing it as soon as they join, the guys at Diggs and start using their app.
That's great, Clark. And you talked already about the importance of giving renters the opportunity to get credit for the rent that they're paying so that they can improve their credit score. And I know Isuzu is a company that is also focusing on that. Could you tell us a little bit about Isuzu?
Well, exactly. And I probably messed that up a little bit as I was talking about it, because I was talking about both what Diggs was doing as well as Isuzu. And Diggs, of course, are the guys that are helping people prepare and get the information and knowledge. But Isuzu is the group that's really helping with this extra credit score. I got a little bit ahead of myself. And they're the ones that are helping the landlords and the property managers to report this to the agencies. And that really serves the property managers as well as the landlords well as also, because when people know that it's really important to make their payments on time so that they can build their credit, then they're much more reliable in the way they have their relationship with their landlord or their tenant. So I think Isuzu's done some very cool stuff.
Exactly. Earlier this year, Freddie Mac found that there was a nationwide shortage of over 3 million housing units, and it's increasing by 300,000 per year. And it really relates to both new and existing households and the challenge that they have to find either a place to rent or a place to buy. With this severe housing shortage, the fifth path towards housing affordability, which was identified by Housing Innovations, is the innovative use of existing housing or existing land to provide greater housing opportunities to meet the nation's housing demand and to increase the income for homeowners. Clark, I know our time is getting short, but I wonder if you could share several of the innovative ways that help provide for the creative use of existing housing stock or land to provide places for people to live.
Sure. I think we've seen a big push overall for co-living. This means that not everyone has to have a kitchen or a big family room. In these really high cost areas, we found that if we can just provide the individual living space, and then people can share the expense of the common area, the kitchen, the gathering place, etc., it makes a big deal. It makes a big difference. Star City, located in San Francisco, is an owner, operator, and advocate and builder of co-living communities with a mission to make cities accessible to everyone. They are mostly renovating existing spaces, but they're also just starting to look at building a new facility and building in San Jose. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch that come on.
We've also talked, as we've gone forward here today, about ADUs, or accessory dwelling units, Clark. this is an area obviously where we can get more out of existing neighborhoods and infrastructure and still keep the character of those neighborhoods intact. Have you seen some examples of ADUs over the years that have made a difference?
We're seeing a lot of cities that agree that this is one of the areas that they can do more in that doesn't cost them a lot. They can take advantage of existing neighborhood opportunities where they can add additional dwelling units and just sort of piggyback on already existing infrastructure. The sewer, the water, the utilities are all there. They just need to figure out how to do it right. But a lot of cities, while they're open to that, are not really taking the next step forward so that the homeowner can figure out how to get this done. It's a little bit too bureaucratic, but some cities are. And we're seeing that they're reaching out and making a difference by providing, in some cases, financing to go do this, but also streamlining the process and using technology like Symbian, or just having an understanding that they need to be more open to working with people on solving the challenges that will then allow them to go build ADUs. The city of Boston, of course, was one that we recognized this last year, and they've done some cool things to just make it available and to make it smarter for folks at the city, to their own people of the city, to quickly help and process applications. And of course, last year we saw the amazing folks in Austin and what they're doing down there. So that's been impressive. I think ADUs are an area that everyone wants to focus on, but we now need to figure out how to execute on ADUs. And I know in our own state, we're working with some cities on hopefully having some model projects that people can look at. It's a lot easier if you build it new from the beginning. But we need to figure out how to have ADUs in our neighborhoods, whether it's a new neighborhood or an existing neighborhood. And cities need to have a commitment to making this happen, not just paying lip service to it, but really following through and defining the process and getting people engaged, and then providing incentive and sometimes financing for those individual homeowners that want to do it.
Thanks, Clark. This idea of really looking at what we already have and trying to be more efficient in terms of how we can use it is a key point if we're going to be successful over time. The sixth and final innovative area that we're going to talk about is preserving and producing affordable housing in neighborhoods, building on the people and strength in those communities. We already have a lot that is out there. We need to build on that. Over the last 2 years, the Ivory Prize has found a number of communities and public and private organizations that have used creative ideas and new technology to make this happen. Clark, could you please share an example from this past year related to this sixth area?
We really love what Rock USA is doing. Rock USA is tackling the mobile home industry in a really fascinating way. These guys come from New Hampshire, Concord, New Hampshire, and they were recognized by the Ivory Prize for their work the past decade of converting mobile homes and the parks into resident-owned communities in 17 states across the country. They've even done a deal right here in our home state of Utah. Let me just say this. The reason this is so important is because what is happening is a lot of these mobile homes are aging now. It's been a big source of providing affordable housing over the last several decades, but a lot of these homes are getting older. And a lot of these homes are not very sustainable. And yet it's hard for a resident or an owner to think about investing a lot in their mobile home if they don't own the dirt underneath it, or they don't have an interest in the park. So one of the reasons I'm so excited about what these guys are doing is once it becomes a resident-owned park, then people have new motivation to make their own units more energy efficient, better insulated, better windows, all the rest of it, which is also going to have a nice impact in terms of what we need to do as a country to be far more sustainable. This is a nonprofit social venture with a mission to make quality residential ownership viable nationally. And so I'm very excited about this, Kent. I think they're really going to make a difference, and they've been doing it for a long time. But I think we need to see them in all 50 states. We need to see these guys grow, and we need to see others doing the same thing that they're doing.
Clark, as you know, we've only begun to scratch the surface today, talking about the things that we've learned from the Ivory Prize. But it is amazing to see everything that's going on around the country. It's also, I think, really fascinating to step back as we've tried to and to identify the paths and directions. And these are a real important part of what we've learned in terms of what we need to do if we're going to begin to tackle this great challenge that we have as a nation. We have a crisis in the country related to housing affordability, but innovation is clearly a key part to solving that. Clark, I think I ought to give you the last word, if you will, to wrap up this conversation.
Over the last 2 years, as I've seen all the entrepreneurs and innovators and listened to the students and also gotten input from our advisory board, I've been super encouraged. You know, I really don't think we've done enough in the housing industry over the last several decades to focus on this issue of affordability. And because of that, now we have a crisis. But I'm encouraged because there are lots of individuals who now get it. Almost every state, almost every city realizes that their future must have lots of different solutions in housing affordability if they want to continue to be a great place to have businesses relocate where people can find the right kind of housing. And it's all tied together. And so people, I think, are starting to collaborate more than ever before. And innovators and entrepreneurs are starting to see that people are ready to invest in and appreciate their new ideas. And so this has all been super encouraging. And I think the best is yet to come. I think our young people are coming up with new ideas. I think these entrepreneurs and innovators are just really starting to catch, get their momentum. And we've just got to continue to shine a light on the best ideas. That's what Ivory Innovations is all about. There's not one solution for America's housing challenges. What we're going to do to help housing affordability are thousands of different ideas and shining a light on thousands of different ideas. And then the best ideas, we need to make sure we do get to every single city and state. And we need to figure out how to deliver for the renter, for the homeowner, for everyone, new tools and new solutions that make housing, attainable. And it's a challenge, but I'm encouraged. So now we have the opportunity to hear what we're going to really focus on in the new year as we look to the Ivory Prize. And I'm going to turn it over to Abby, who's going to describe what we're after as we look for new applicants, new nominees. Abby, it's all yours.
Abby, you're on mute.
Thanks, Michael. Sorry, I was rambling. So I'm Abby Ivory. I'm the director of Ivory Innovations, and we're very excited to kick things off for this next year of the Ivory Prize. As a quick note, we will be holding a virtual event in January. It's co-hosted with Berkeley and the Turner Center, and we will be featuring each of these companies and entrepreneurs that Clark and Kent mentioned. So if you guys are interested in learning more about what these different companies are doing, please tune in and we'll make sure to get you the information so that you can learn more about what's going on there. I just would like to say how remarkable it's been to work with all of these innovators over the past 2 years and really understand and build a network of problem solvers for housing affordability. And right now, everyone who's on this call is a part of that network, and this is powerful. We are so excited to get things kicked off for the 2020 Ivory Prize. This year, we will have an increased focus on innovations around COVID-19 and social justice. That being said, everything in all realms is still, we'll still be looking at all the different solutions, but we will be focusing on those 2 categories as well. We will be giving our winners $200,000 in prize money this year to help move their idea down the path a little bit faster. We're also here to help facilitate connections in terms of fundraising and anything else that these companies might need, just because we really want everyone to be successful. And that is our end goal, is to drive housing affordability. And when we find a company that we believe in, we are fully behind them and want to make sure that they can accomplish their goals. So one reason we've been really successful at finding great ideas in the past has been this powerful network of individuals that you're all a part of. And we would like you, if you know of anyone who you think would be a great company to nominate, please hop onto our website and nominate them at ivoryinnovations.org. We have everything up and running. And if you have any additional questions, please feel free to send us an email at info@ivoryinnovations.org. And we are looking forward to getting things moving. We have all of our students at our at the course at the University of Utah, as well as the student interns that work with us, ready to go on this. And so we're really excited for this year, and we hope that you guys will help us find the best innovators and companies out there that are really driving housing affordability. Thanks.